Hello everyone, my name is Megan Heiss and I am presenting the debate on Thich, Nhat, Hahn. My debate topic is on how nonviolent communication can heal the individual and heal the world. So let's begin. Excuse me. I was born in central Vietnam in 1926. And at the age of 7, I heard the calling to join the monkhood, which I did at the age of 16. My parents were reluctant for me to join the monkhood as they felt that the life of a monk was a hard one. But I knew that it was for me. I felt that I would not be happy if I was not a monk. This is what's called beginner's mind. Beginner's mind is our deepest intention and our deepest desire that a person may have. And it is still alive in me today at the age of 87. During the Vietnam War in the 1960s, the monasteries were confronted with the question of whether to adhere to the contemplative life and remain meditating, or to help the villagers suffering under the bombings and the devastation of the war. I chose to do both. And this is what is referred to as engaged Buddhism or the engaged Buddhist movement. And I have dedicated my life to the inner transformation for the benefit of individuals and of society. After visiting the United States and Europe in 1966 on a peace mission trip, I was banned from returning to Vietnam. I was exiled for speaking out against the war. Those in favor of the war in Vietnam wanted to fight until the end, whereas I spoke about reconciliation. The first year of my exile, I dreamed of going home every single night. I thought that if I do not practice, then I will dry up. So I continued to do my work, and I was exiled from Vietnam for 39 years. I first reached out to Martin Luther King Jr. when I wrote him a letter regarding why some Vietnamese monks were enkindling themselves with fire. This was not an act of suicide. Protests within Vietnam, protests against the war were quelled rather quickly. And so sometimes we have to burn ourselves alive to make our voices heard. And the monks did this out of compassion for those suffering, not out of despair. I spoke with Martin Luther King Jr., about peace, freedom, and community. And I told him how without community, we as individuals will not go very far. It was shortly after this conversation that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke out publicly against the Vietnam War. And it was the next year that he nominated me for the Nobel Peace Prize. In Buddhism, we called Martin Luther King Jr. a Bodhisattva, which means an enlightened person. Non-violent communication is always the work of the Bodhisattva. It's always communicating with compassion. After his assassination, I thought that the American people had produced a king, but are unable to preserve him. I was angry at that time. I was unable to eat, and I was unable to sleep. So that brings us to the question of what is nonviolent communication? Nonviolent communication begins with a deep listening, compassionate listening. Deep listening can heal another person. When you listen to the other person, your only goal, your main goal, your only goal is to help him or her to empty his heart. Even if the words conveyed are of bitterness and pain, you listen. This listening provides a space for him or her to suffer less. If you want to provide feedback or advice, you can do this at another time, or following up at another time. This is more powerful method of listening. It's more effective, as 1 hour of deep listening can provide deep healing and ease of their sorrow. Fear, anger, and despair are born of wrong perception. We have wrong perceptions concerning ourselves and the other person. Wrong perception is the foundation of conflict, war, and violence. We can end wars by beginning communication with others, and it starts with deep listening, attempting to understand the other and not to be understood. During the process of deep listening, we learn so much about our own perception. The principle is the same no matter what the conflict, whether it is country to country, employee to employer, brother to sister, husband to wife, friend to friend. It doesn't matter, it's the same. So one of the emotions that I would like to speak about is anger. And the energy of anger is the energy which people use in order to act. We are not lucid when we are angry. We may do wrong things. This is why the energy of compassion is better. The energy of compassion is very strong. The energy of anger may be compelling, but the energy of compassion is stronger. We can always learn from our suffering. And what we learn and how we learn it depends on how we react to the given situation. We can continue suffering and act in ways that prolong our suffering, or we can do things that provide immediate relief. This is why mindfulness can help bring insight. Happiness and suffering are interrelated. There are good seeds and bad seeds in all of us at all times. And so meditation is the practice of living in the here and now. So mindful meditation is the infusing of this into every moment, action, and situation that we encounter. So how do you begin your meditation? You can begin your mindful meditation practice by breathing, simply by breathing. Life always begins with a breath. So whatever situation you find yourself in, begin with breathing deeply. Thank you.